This is a photo of my grandfather taken in 1961. And this is the last photo I ever took of him. He passed away in 2022 after marrying my grandmother, raising 3 kids, fighting in Korea, and fighting and beating cancer. We were always really close. He used to pick me up from school because my parents were working, and he would take me back to my grandparents' house, and we would ride bikes around town or go fishing or just watch The Price is Right. When I moved out west, he joined my parents and my brothers on a cross-country RV road trip to visit me out in the Tetons. And he would later tell me that was one of the highlights of his life. But this video isn't about my grandfather, although he was the inspiration for it. This video is about the importance of documenting your life. My earliest memories of my grandfather, he was in his 50s, but this past Christmas I dug through a bunch of bins of old photos that my grandmother saved, and I feel like I've learned even more about him. Digging through all these old photos really just got me thinking a lot about time and life and death and photography. And so I wanted to share some tips for documenting your life, and I hope this video inspires you to take more photos and really just enjoy the everyday things, because you never really know when it's the last time you're going to road trip to your favorite spot, or the last time you're going to pick up your kid, or the last time you're going to talk to your grandfather. So let's go over some tips for documenting your life, and I'll share some more of these cool old family photos that I found. So tip number 1 is to get yourself a camera that's very easy to use. I used to only shoot on my Sonys, and I shot everything in RAW, and that meant that every photo, if I wanted to share it, I'd have to import it to my computer and do some of the touch-ups and export it and then finally share it. And I found that for documenting my everyday life, I just never really did that. That camera was mostly a work camera, and I didn't want to spend the time or the energy to edit photos that were just for fun. Last year I picked up the Fujifilm X100 just for that ease of use and the ability to export JPEGs that I really like, and I don't have to import and edit the photos, and I really have just been documenting more of everyday life with this camera. On this camera, I have everything set to auto, so I can just turn it on and shoot, or I can hand it off to anybody and they can take photos. But you don't need an expensive camera for this, you just need a camera that's easy. That can even be your iPhone. Tip number 2 is don't forget to document the everyday moments in life. Even if you're in a routine and things feel the same day to day, everyone's getting a little bit older and you're never gonna get those moments back. So don't forget to shoot the stuff that feels mundane, because you may miss it someday, and it's nice to look back on some of those simple moments. My third and final tip is to print your images. If my grandmother just had all these photos on an old computer, I probably never would have seen them, but I really had fun digging through these old bins of printed photos. And me and Amanda talked about this point. I think every quarter or every 6 months, we're gonna start digging through our archives and just print 25 to 50 images. Do that every 6 months, and by the end of the year, we have 100 photos. And then all those photos just get stored in a shoebox somewhere. And 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road, our kids and grandkids can look at those photos and they can learn things about our lives that we might have forgotten about. So that's a very important one to me. Print your images. But just a couple more thoughts before I go. After I moved out west, the distance between me and my grandfather grew a little bit. We obviously didn't get to see each other as much. Occasionally we would talk on the phone about trucks and hunting and girls, but I didn't realize when I moved out west that I'd really only get to see him 5 or 6 more times before he passed away. And if I knew it at the time, I think I would have treasured those moments a little more. I'm sad that he's missing a lot of my major life moments. I proposed to Amanda with the ring that he bought for my grandmother 65 years ago. And he's not gonna get to meet his great-granddaughter that's due in June. But with these photos I found, I feel like I'm going to get to share his life with my kids, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. So I hope this video reminds you that time just keeps marching on. So call your loved ones and start documenting those everyday moments in your life.